Now to the latest on the Epstein files. Last night, President Donald Trump signed a bill that passed on a nearly unanimous vote in Congress, ordering the Justice Department to release the files.
All right, so the president called it the latest Democratic hoax.
Yes, but there are many questions about this morning, especially when the files will actually be made public and what we're going to see. ABC News Washington managing editor Katherine Faulders joins us now with more. Katherine, thank you. Good to be with you, and I'm happy that you could join us. Can you walk us through what happened yesterday? This was once considered a long shot effort. What's the case now?
Yeah, and as you mentioned, the long shot effort, this is something that has dominated the news cycle the whole week. Remember, we were talking about just a few days ago, the fact that the White House was having members of Congress, House Republicans over to try and lobby them to get their names taken off the petition that forced that vote in the House. So the White House and the administration did not want these documents coming out. They didn't want this vote to move forward. But flash forward just a few days, it passed the House, then it passed the Senate. It went to Trump's desk yesterday afternoon, and he announced on his social media platform that he, in fact, signed the bill. We didn't see him sign it. We obviously didn't have any photo opportunity with him to see that. But now that he signed it, it began this ticking clock of 30 days, where, according to the bill, the Justice Department has 30 days to release the documents they have in their possession. They haven't released them yet. I've been speaking to a lot of sources behind the scenes, and it doesn't seem as though, at least at this point, that they're going to release them today or by the end of the week. There's a lot of deliberations that are going on behind the scenes because there are some loopholes here that they could make an argument where they wouldn't have to release the full trove of documents, for example.
Let's talk about that then. What are these loopholes we're talking about? We know the president, he did encourage some investigations into Democratic donors and Democrats themselves. Is that the loophole you're talking about?
Yeah, that could possibly be one of them. So in the bill, there's a provision that essentially says permitted withholding. So it goes through what withholdings are potentially permitted by the Justice Department. And one in particular, which is going to come into play, as you mentioned, which is super interesting, is this idea of there being an ongoing investigation. Now, remember, the Justice Department and FBI closed this investigation back in July. You saw that then Trump relaunched this investigation, directed DOJ to relaunch this investigation specifically as it relates to Democrats, as you note. Now, that's interesting because will the Department of Justice say, well, because it's now an active, ongoing investigation, we can't release these files? But keep in mind, they knew what was in the bill text. It was very clear that this was one of the provisions, and then this new investigation was launched. So it could be seen as, and what some people are speculating on, is that it could be seen as announcing this investigation and then trying to hide the documents behind that. So we'll have to see, again, what the Department of Justice ultimately does. But there's another side of thinking on this, that this has been an issue that has plagued the administration for months, literally more than 6 months we've been talking about this. So why not just release all of the documents and attempt to put this behind them? That's another argument. So again, it's likely that they could use this as potentially an excuse not to release all the documents, and it is permitted in the bill. At the same time, there are some people who say, look, let's just get this all behind us. So we'll have to see what happens.
It's so interesting. The way you laid it out is exactly right. The bill was written to be able to not have to release everything broadly and openly, right? So if we're going to see redacted because of legal issues or ongoing investigations, give me a timeline. I mean, how would that work to maybe seeing the actual files one day?
It's such a good question here because remember months ago when we were talking about this DOJ and FBI review of the files, the point of that review at the time, so over the summer, was to actually go through all of these documents for sensitive information and redact them before releasing them. So there is an argument where these documents are already redacted for personal identifying information, for victim names, for example, but they would have to go back through those documents and unredact some of that information because it's probably too redacted at this point, according to the bill text. So how that affects the timeline is unclear at this point. We do know that they've already been through all the documents, but that's because the government has already done their own review of them. Now, I'm told that behind the scenes, this is a bit messy, right? Because as we were just talking about, there's a lot of different opinions, a lot of different voices in the room who have an opinion on really what should be done here as it relates to the documents. So we just don't know at this point. But again, it doesn't seem like something is going to happen imminently. But to your point about these redactions, they are going to have to go back through all these documents. And remember, there are not just 1,000, not just 2,000 documents, but hundreds of thousands, potentially, documents here. They've already turned over about 30,000 documents to Congress previously, but that's just a fraction of what they have. So this is going to be an intensive review that they're going to have to do.
And just based off of what you're saying, we don't know what we're going to see when we finally see it and the extent of what we'll see.
Yeah.
It's
all right.
still a mystery.
But we know you'll be on it, and so will ABC. Katherine Faulders, thank you so much for joining us. Honestly, I feel like we can do this check-in almost every day for weeks now.
Happy to do it.